if you're a Warriors fan, you should be worried that Justin is comparing your team
Yeah,
to the Bulls.
definitely
I'm sorry,
worried.
Justin. No disrespect.
No, not at all.
But it's an apt comparison. Just before Christmas, we had an interview, a media appearance for Ja Morant, where he was asked the question, what teams are you scared of in the NBA? Ja Morant's response was, I'm fine in the West. I'm worried about the Boston Celtics. So, this falls. So the Grizzlies right now fall into this archetype that we've seen among NBA teams. They are the young up-and-comers. They were this last season as well. We've seen this, remember, the Oklahoma City Thunder, when they had Durant, Westbrook, and James Harden on that roster. The Grizzlies are this new mold, which is great for the NBA. These archetype-type teams are narratives that people are familiar with from the past that they can really connect to as fans. So this is an obvious shot at a few teams in the West. First and foremost, the Warriors, the team that eliminated them from the playoffs last year. This is a slap in the face right now. So I don't know. Your thoughts on, I guess, the Ja Morant?
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting you talk about Ja Morant's confidence. Bovada does not reflect Morant's arrogance. And according to their odds, Memphis is still plus 1,300 with the Nuggets and Warriors right ahead of
In terms of winning the title or
winning
the
a championship.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So if you're looking at, Morant's feelings of just not taking any of the teams in the West seriously, I don't think he sincerely thinks that. I think, like you said, Matt, I think that's, I don't know. I think it's one of those things. Ja Morant's a competitor, so I don't think he's ignorant enough to know to be like, hey, like I didn't know this was going to motivate these teams. I think he definitely knows, and I think he definitely enjoys the challenge. So I can't really knock him. I think I respect what he says. I can't imagine, we get to this season and if the Warriors upset the Grizzlies, Morant's like, oh, I didn't know those comments would motivate the Golden State Warriors. I think if he says that, I would be more disappointed in these comments just because of that seems very obvious that when you discount a lot of the Western Conference, you're going to anger them and motivate their performance. So overall, I like the comments. I think it's fiery. I think it's one of those things that we always discuss when we're trying to get a lot of these superstars to be honest and more transparent. This is welcomed as compared to, in years past, just seeing a lot of the superstars just kind of play it safe and just say the same old thing all the time. This is really good to see and spice up, what's happening with, Memphis's rivalries across the Western Conference specifically. So I think this is good for the league. I don't have a problem with his comments at all. I think for Memphis, it's just a situation. Are they ready just to take on, motivated matchups each and every night? And I think even if Morant doesn't say that, I don't see these teams not being motivated to play Memphis at all. I mean, they're still a top team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I agree with you in some aspects. On some things, I feel the opposite. I definitely agree with you that it's good for the NBA, to the point that I almost wonder if he was nudged into saying that
by who?
by his PR team or
I don't think so.
To get attention. No, yeah, I know.
I'd be surprised.
Well, but it was like so perfect the way he said that and everything,
sure.
and seemingly out of character for Ja Morant. Like he's always been sort of the super likable. Everyone gets behind this guy, roots for him. This is the first thing that he's done, aside from maybe some dancing in the games, that have ruffled people's feathers in the wrong way. The only thing that he's really ever arguably deserved criticism for are these comments here. I like the confidence. I don't like vocalizing that and giving bulletin board material. I do think Ja Morant believes that. I do think he is that confident in himself and his team that he feels like he can blast through the West. I don't think it's smart to say it, but I love that he did. And I love that when he was asked about it again, he didn't walk it back. He said he puts his stamp on it, which I think makes it better for us, the fan, and for the league, and for no love lost between the Warriors and the Grizzlies. Let's touch on the Warriors just really quickly here because they're one of those teams that, of course, with the Steph Curry injury, it's been are they in? Are they out? Are they doomed? Are they okay? Do you see this team kind of holding steady, being a play-in team, or do you see them being, that 6 seed or greater when it's all said and done?
Well, I think we've seen a huge trend in the NBA, and it's an underrated storyline. I think we have discussed it, and I think our guests have discussed it. Really, if you drop a lot of games, you're going to pay for it severely. And I think compared to in years past, there's a little bit of buffer. I think there's easier to make up games. And I think the Chicago Bulls are learning this the hard way, just in terms of they're a very talented team, but they blow leads and inferior teams beat them because they just can't get it together within the opening parts of the game for the Bulls. And I think the Warriors, I think they're a little bit of a similar situation, not necessarily in blowing leads, but in terms of just losing games to inferior teams. And I think coming up on their schedule, if you take a look at the Jazz, the Blazers, and the Hawks, I mean, to me, I think they need to at least, go, I would say, 2-1 in those games, and then I think they need to, beat the Pistons and Magic. I mean, the Pistons and Magic, they have to win those games. Like facing definitely inferior teams, they just can't lose those games, and they can beat those teams without Steph Curry. They have enough talent, and if they lose those games, I think that's a definite warning sign as to the potential of this team heading into the playoffs. Now, like you were saying with Bovada, it seems like Vegas is respecting them in terms of being an elite team come playoff time, and I shared their sentiment. But I have to admit, if they drop those 2 games, I know a lot of people say don't look into the regular season for looking what's going to happen in the playoffs. But if they drop those 2 games, I'm going to be highly concerned because those are 2 give me games, in my opinion, against 2 teams that are definitely out of it, despite especially with the Pistons with Kay Cunningham being hurt. I mean, really. I mean, other than Paulo with the Magic, I mean, those are 2 easy wins, and that's very rare to say in this day and age of the NBA.
And it's concerning to me that you are making the Bulls comparison with the Warriors, and you're right. You're not wrong. Like if you're a Warriors fan, you should be worried that Justin is comparing your team
Yeah,
to the Bulls.
definitely
I'm sorry,
worried.
Justin. No disrespect.
No, not at all.
But it's an apt comparison. Very different teams, but in
Yeah,
terms of the situation they're in, you're right. And they can't really take games off. They can't really have this attitude that they've had in the past that they can turn the switch on come playoff time and be okay. I know they're the defending champions, but we've had discussions, or at least I mentioned foolishly before they won that title last year, like, hey, the Warriors might be on their last legs. This was when you and I weren't sure how Klay Thompson, no one was sure how he was going to look coming off his injuries. And the Warriors, again, last year could have been the last thing with this group. I would say more likely, yes, this was the last finals with this group than less likely because of the age of this team. Now, I'm not saying they can't do it again. I'm not going to make that mistake again in my predictions, but this team is getting up there as currently constructed. And it's going to be a huge test. Not a good team on the road, 3-16
yeah,
this
killer,
year.
brutal,
And
brutal.
and they've got plenty of tests coming up still on their schedule.